I invite you to remain standing as we hear together the gospel for today. It comes to us from the gospel according to Matthew in the 4th chapter. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was famished. The tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But Jesus answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus said again, "It is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to him, "All these I will give to you if you will fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only Him." Then the devil left him. And suddenly angels came and waited on him. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. You may be seated. I owe my mother a cookie jar. I was young. There were cookies in it. She said no. I thought yes. Waited for her to leave the kitchen, reached in to get my cookie, and if it were not for the 4-foot drop from the counter to the floor, I would have gotten away with the crime. I'm sure I was not hungry. I'm certain that I was not famished, but like forbidden fruit, the jar was there, the cookies looked good, they had been deemed off limits. So I had to have one. Food can get you into trouble. And an appetite for the wrong kind of food really can. Just ask Adam and Eve. You heard their story today. What about Esau's? Remember his? Esau's twin Jacob was cooking stew. Barely firstborn Esau came in from the fields. He was famished. He told Jacob, "Give me some of that red stuff," which is not the most polite way to ask for a meal. Then again, Jacob was not feeling particularly polite either. He took advantage of his brother. "I'll give you some of that if you give me your birthright." What's a birthright to someone who's about to die? Esau reasoned. So he gave it away for some of that red stuff. Some terrible decisions have been motivated by hunger. We're likelier to make bad decisions when we are hungry. And in a world with plenty of cookies and apples and stew, there are other hungers besides those of the belly. Scientists tell us that not unlike the dopamine hit that we get from a delicious dessert is the surge of adrenaline we get when a bunch of people respond to something we've posted on social media. And how do you get more responses? By making it more impressive, more inspiring, more sensational, more antagonistic. If we find ourselves hungry for some attention and a provocative post can provide that, it is tempting to press publish. There are any number of ways when we are hungry for attention. To satisfy that hunger, hand someone a microphone. Give him 15 to 20 minutes to say something he claims to be the word of the Lord. Have 300 people line up to tell him how good that was, how good he is. And if he's not grounded, if his spirit is not mature, if it becomes all about him, if he's hungry for that kind of affirmation, it's a dangerous prospect. Kind of like telling a man after 40 days and 40 nights of fasting, you can turn those stones into bread. Go ahead. You noticed, I'm sure, that the devil did not come to Jesus on day one of his wilderness experience. Jesus was hardly dry from the waters of his baptism on day one. The devil did not show up a week later to try to tempt him because the Father's voice was still ringing in his ears. This is my Son, my beloved, with him I'm well pleased. The devil showed up after 40 days, 40 nights. Once Jesus had completed his fast, once he was completely famished, that's when the devil came calling. The devil's there to take advantage of Jesus when he was at his most vulnerable, hoping to convince him to shortchange his task, to minimize his calling, to be smaller than was his purpose. The temptation was for Jesus to accept less when he was called to be more. Less and more, those are ways we might think of the differences between deprivation and fasting. When people fast, having less leads to more. When people are deprived, having less just leads to more less. When people fast, it can reveal to them some of the fillers that they have taken in that have replaced what is good. Deprivation makes us more willing to take on anything, good or bad, so long as it makes us feel a little better. Fasting is a spiritual discipline with the aim of greater holiness. Deprivation is unholy, the result of brokenness in our world. People fast by choice. They are deprived by force. People fast with intentionality for a good purpose. To deprive someone of what they need is a bad purpose. Before educators and psychologists bubble up with what's coming into their minds right now, let me go ahead and acknowledge this is the great insight of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But you don't need Maslow to tell you. All you need is a heart and a mind to acknowledge that people cannot focus on what will help them become better when they are distracted by what is helping them to just survive. If their physical needs are not taken care of, we cannot really imagine them growing in the other parts of their lives. It's neither faithful nor wise to tell a famished person, you'll get your food one day, but let's go ahead and sit down and read the Bible and pray for the next few. It's the basic needs of life that are so consequential to all the other important needs being met. Once people have their physical needs met, they're open to having their spiritual, emotional, and mental ones met too. Which is why every week we send food home with the backpack mission to make sure those children in our community have what they need so that they aren't starving through the weekend and arriving on Mondays distracted and distracting, unable to become the best, and preventing their friends in class from becoming the best that they can be. When deprived of the basic needs, it is very difficult for someone to become the full version of themselves. And it should be said, it's also true that when given too much, it can be difficult for people to become the full version of who they are called to be. Fillers can take the place of substance. Abundance can demotivate. They can become at even greater risk of thinking it's all about them. And so bring the two together. Tempt a famished person with an abundance of food and power, notoriety, and that person becomes very vulnerable to whatever it is we would offer him or her. If Esau would sell his birthright for some red stuff after just a little bit of time in the field, if Adam and Eve would trade an Eden filled with all kinds of fruit for the one they were told not to eat, Surely a famished Son of God would be willing to become a lesser version of himself in order to get all the bread, authority, and power in the world. At least that's what the devil was counting on. I don't think the devil was actually counting on Jesus doubting his status as the Son of God. The word "if" in that sense really means since. The devil was tempting, since you are the Son of God, you can make these things happen. And those things, for the record, were not bad things. We know that because Jesus eventually did them, each of them. Jesus performed feeding miracles. Jesus did sensational works in public, like turning water into wine, walking across water, raising the dead. Almost as soon as the devil left, Jesus was attended to by angels. After his resurrection, God granted Jesus the authority over all the kingdoms of the world. It's not that the temptations the devil offered were for Jesus to do bad things. The devil knew better than to ask Jesus to do evil. It's that the temptations were to get Jesus to do things that would make him a lesser version of himself. The Son of God, sure. But the kind that takes a little off the top for himself. God's obedient Son, yes. But why not make it a little more about you? You deserve that. And had Jesus? Well, I guess we who've done that and worse would be in no position to judge him. But we also wouldn't be talking about him today. Sure wouldn't be worshiping him. And yet here we are. Why? Because when he was famished, he remained obedient. When he could have chosen to be a slightly lesser version of the Son of God, he remained true to the fuller one. Which, of course, is meant to inspire us, the children of God, to do likewise, to not give in to temptation to become lesser versions of who God has created us to be. Which likely for us won't mean that we stare at a pile of rocks and are invited to turn them into bread. It won't be a spectacle that would wow the world and require angels to come and to save us from ourselves. It's not trading our souls for all the kingdoms of the world. For us, it's subtler temptations. The kind that emerge when we are famished by neglect rather than fasting by intention. They'll come when we deprive ourselves of substance and genuine relationship and seek nourishment in filler and shallow forms of attention. The temptations will show up when we have entertained people by judging others. We suddenly realize are the same people who are now entertained by judging us. They'll happen when we decide to ignore the basic needs of our neighbors because it's not our problem. And we realize too late that the calloused hearts that come from that are our problem. The lesson of the temptation story is so much more than don't eat the cookie. It's don't accept the devil's trick to be a lesser version of who you are created to be. You were created for much good. Don't deprive a hungry world of it.